In the modern era of video games, sometimes a game can get just too complicated. Don't get me wrong, there's a time and place for that. With 100+ hour RPGs and deep, robust strategy games, or even the uber-realistic sport and driving simulations. Other times, however, simplicity and fun is all you want. Those two traits are especially important in a good puzzle game. You want a challenge, but you also want it to be simple and fun. Let your mind do the hard work, not your fingers. Being a puzzle platformer, Blackhole Complete Edition tries its best to capture both of these elements and provide an enjoyable and challenging experience. However, sometimes the physical challenges that are required to actually play the game overshadow the mental trials it offers to players. As an expendable member of a space team charged with closing deadly black holes, you become, at least initially, the sole survivor of a spaceship that has crash-landed on a mysterious planet. Well, you and the ship's artificial intelligence. Mind you, this AI has an attitude, and it treats you like you are the dumbest creature in the universe. It's your job to explore this alien world and gather these small blue orbs, which the game calls self-burns, in order to repair your ship and get back home. The core gameplay experience of Blackhole revolves around you entering one of the game's 70 or so levels and collecting as many of these self-burns as possible. As you collect more and more of them, you unlock new levels and restore different functions of your ship. These are also key to gaining access to new areas on the planet. Collecting them is a challenge and is where the puzzle aspect of the game comes into play. Being set in space, the game is primarily about your manipulation of gravity. You get to flip the world all around in every direction, altering the planet's gravitational pull in order to move around the ever-changing world. It's a very simple premise that provides some fun and unique challenges along the way. You'll want to play through levels multiple times, both to improve your completion time and to obtain more of the available self-burns that are scattered throughout each one. This is when the game shines. While things start off relatively simple, they quickly ramp up to frustrating and mind-numbing excursions that can drive you mad, but I mean that in a good way. Sometimes getting each and every self-burn seems nearly impossible, but after a bit of trial and error, as well as studying the environment and different paths throughout each stage, it all clicks and makes sense. Normally that's what you want from a puzzle game, at least when it is your mental musculature that is put to the test. It's great when it becomes a matter of being able to figure things out, but when you have trouble executing the actions necessary to solve those puzzles, that creates a problem. This is where Blackhole runs into an issue. While the puzzles do get challenging mentally, they also become hard to solve simply because the game's controls and physics don't really play out too well. There are times when pixel-perfect jumps are necessary and whatnot, and the awkward flightiness of the character and some occasional frame rate issues keep you from reaching your goal. This is what caused me the most frustration and ultimately put a damper on the experience for me. A solid platformer needs crisp and responsive movement and controls. Blackhole lacks that, and ultimately this becomes the game's biggest hurdle, not its puzzles. And that's not the only problem to be found. The other big one lies with the game's story aspect. It's through the interaction with your AI that the game tries to blend in a healthy amount of story into the experience. While I appreciate the effort to flesh it all out, it really just tries too hard to do so. The game's forced humor quickly crosses over from being entertaining to annoying. The open story-driven sequence that starts off the game lasted at least 10 minutes, and when the AI speaks up to try to give the game some substance throughout the levels, it seems to drone on and you just want to get to the action. Thankfully, there is an option of playing through the game with less of a focus on the story, which is something I highly recommend you do. Despite these setbacks, there is a lot of fun and challenge to be found here. Some of the puzzles can be downright diabolical, and you really get a sense of accomplishment when you manage to perfect a stage that has been giving you headaches for some time. The game has a really great premise, and for the most part, it executes that premise in a decent manner. It's the little things that seem to hold it back from being all that it can be, such as controls that aren't quite as responsive as they need to be, or the overbearing focus on story and humor. The control aspect is something that can be addressed with subsequent title updates, and I really hope the developers do take the time to fix that. If you like a good mental challenge and a decent platforming experience, Blackhole should satisfy those cravings nicely. I'm giving Blackhole a 7 out of 10.